My parents sold my $450,000 house while I was overseas and gave it to my sister for her credit card debt. My name is Margaret Moore. I'm 35 years old, and I discovered this betrayal through a casual email from my mother. We took care of your house situation, sweetie. Diana needed it more. They forged my signature. They impersonated my partner. They used my father's banking connections to steal everything my boyfriend Ken and I had built. The security cameras they didn't know existed captured them celebrating in my bedroom, toasting with champagne while throwing my grandmother's china into garbage bags. Before I tell you how the FBI arrested them at Sunday dinner in front of our entire extended family, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if stories about setting boundaries with toxic families resonate with you. What happened next would destroy our family forever. And I'm the one who made sure of it. My name is Margaret Moore. I'm 35 years old, and what my parents did while I was away on business still makes lawyers gasp when I tell them. They sold my $450,000 house using forged documents to pay off my sister's credit card debt. Not borrowed against it, not asked me about it, sold it. While I was 8,000 miles away in Singapore, they walked into a bank where my father used to work, presented falsified papers, and transferred ownership of my home to pay for my sister Diana's shopping addiction. Before I tell you how I got my house back and put them in federal prison, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if stories about setting boundaries with toxic families resonate with you. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now, let me take you back to 3 months ago, when I thought family meant something different. Growing up in our household, there was Margaret who worked, and Diana who was loved. That's not bitterness talking, that's just fact. By the time I was 12, I was doing my own laundry, packing my own lunches, and walking myself to school because Mom needed to drive Diana to her dance classes. Not that Diana ever performed anywhere, she just liked the outfits. "You're so independent, Margaret," Mom would say, like it was a compliment rather than neglect. "Diana needs more support, she's sensitive." Sensitive. That was the word that excused everything. Diana was too sensitive for criticism when she dropped out of college twice. Too sensitive for job interviews. Too sensitive to hear no when she wanted a new car at 25, despite having no income. Meanwhile, I graduated summa cum laude from MIT, landed a software engineering position at Microsoft, and bought my own condo at 27. My parents came to my graduation, stayed for exactly 1 hour, then left early because Diana had a panic attack about being in a crowd. She was at home, watching Netflix. The pattern never changed. When I got promoted to senior engineer, Dad said, "That's nice, dear. Did you know Diana's thinking about starting a jewelry business?" The business lasted 3 weeks and cost them $15,000. When I introduced them to Ken, my boyfriend of 2 years who worked as a corporate lawyer, Mom's first question was, "Does he know Diana's single? Maybe he has a friend for her?" Last Christmas, I announced that Ken and I were buying a house together. A real house, with 4 bedrooms and a backyard in Bellevue. Dad's response? "Must be nice to have money. Poor Diana's still struggling with her credit cards." Poor Diana. She'd just returned from her third trip to Cabo that year. Ken and I closed on the house in January, $450,000, with both our names on the deed. We'd saved for 5 years, sacrificed vacations, driven the same cars since college. This house was our future, the place where we'd raise kids, host holidays, build a life together. I invited my parents to see it the day we got the keys. "Maybe another time," Mom said. "Diana's having a rough week." They never came. Not once in the 6 months before my business trip did they visit our home. Diana, however, posted photos on Instagram from her weekly spa days, tagged #selfcare, #blessed. Something felt off about their disinterest, but Ken had a theory. "They can't stand that you succeeded without them," he said one night, as we installed security cameras around the property. "You're proof that Diana's problems aren't bad luck, they're bad choices." The cameras were Ken's idea. As a lawyer, he'd seen too many property disputes. "Better safe than sorry," he said, syncing them to our phones. Every door, every window, the driveway, even the backyard. All motion activated, all backed up to the cloud. You're paranoid, I laughed. I'm prepared, he corrected. There's a difference. I gave my parents a spare key anyway. Just for emergencies, I said. They lived 40 minutes away, and if something happened while we were at work, I wanted someone I could call. Dad took the key without looking at me. Mom was busy texting Diana. 3 weeks later, my boss called me into his office. Singapore needed someone to lead the new AI implementation. 3 months overseas, but it would fast-track me for director. Take it, Ken said immediately. I'll handle things here. I should have noticed Mom's smile when I told them. It was the first time she'd looked happy about my career. Singapore was everything I'd dreamed: challenging work, brilliant colleagues, a project that would revolutionize our entire platform. For the first month, I was too busy to notice anything strange. 16-hour days, breakthrough after breakthrough. Ken and I video called every night, and he'd walk me through the house, showing me his little improvements. New plants in the garden, the bathroom finally retiled. Your parents stopped by, he mentioned during week 5. Your dad wanted to check the water heater. The brand new water heater? That's what I said. They left after 5 minutes. Week 8, another visit. Mom needed to borrow a cup of sugar from our house, 40 minutes from theirs. Just change the locks, Ken suggested, but I refused. They were odd, not dangerous. What could they possibly do? Week 10, Ken flew to New York for a deposition. He'd be gone 5 days. That's when Mom's email arrived. Hi, sweetie. Hope Singapore is treating you well. Quick update. We've helped with your house situation. Diana really needed support, and since you're never there anyway, it made sense. You understand. Love you. My house situation? I called Ken immediately, but he was in court. I called Mom. No answer. Dad, voicemail. Diana. Her phone was disconnected. Then I checked my bank app. The mortgage account showed closed. My hands shook as I opened my email again. There it was, buried in spam. A notification from the county recorder's office, dated 5 days ago. Property transfer completed. New owner, Diana Moore. I stared at the screen. It was 3 a.m. in Singapore, noon in Seattle. In 6 hours, I'd lose my project bonus if I left early. In 12 hours, Ken would land in New York. I booked the next flight home and started recording everything on my phone. Check your bank account when you get back, Mom had written. I was already checking everything else. On the plane, I pulled up every document I could access. The country recorder's website showed the transaction clearly. Property sold for $450,000. Sellers, Margaret Moore and Ken Matthews. Buyer, Diana Moore. The signature page made me zoom in 3 times. That was supposed to be my signature. It looked close. The M had my flourish, the swooping E at the end. But the middle was wrong. Too neat. Too practiced. Ken finally called as I was boarding my connection in Tokyo. What do you mean they sold our house? Check your email. I sent you everything. Silence. Then, this is fraud. Federal fraud. Your father used to work at Sound Pacific Bank, where we have our mortgage. Margaret, we need a lawyer, now. We need more than that. I pulled up our security app. Ken, the cameras have been offline for 2 weeks. What? But the cloud backup exists through the day before they went dark. I started downloading everything while Ken called his colleague Sarah Coleman, the best real estate attorney in Washington state. By the time I landed in Seattle, we had a plan. First stop wasn't home. It was the police station. Ma'am, this is a civil matter, the desk sergeant started. It's fraud, I corrected, sliding over the forged documents Sarah had already reviewed. Identity theft, wire fraud, and conspiracy, since multiple parties are involved. The detective who finally took my report looked increasingly grim as I laid out the evidence. Your parents did this? Blood doesn't make you family, I said. Actions do. We'll need the originals from the recorder's office, he said, and any surveillance footage. Already being prepared by my attorney, I stood to leave. They don't know I'm back yet. I'd like to keep it that way until dinner tomorrow. He raised an eyebrow. Family dinner. Every Sunday. They'll all be there. Sarah Coleman's office felt like a war room. Documents covered every surface: bank statements, property records, emails, surveillance screenshots. Ken paced while Sarah highlighted inconsistencies in yellow. Your father didn't just use his old connections, she said, adjusting her glasses. He actively impersonated Ken on a phone call to authorize the transfer. We have the recording. I listened to my father's voice, pitched slightly lower, trying to sound like Ken. Yes, this is Ken Matthews. I authorized the sale. That's a federal crime, Sarah continued. Each count of wire fraud carries up to 20 years. The security footage was worse. Dad entering our house with a locksmith while Mom kept watch. Diana there too, measuring rooms, taking photos. They'd been in our bedroom, our office. Ken's hands clenched watching them rifle through our filing cabinet, pulling out financial documents. They planned this for weeks, Sarah said. Look. She pulled up Diana's Instagram. 3 weeks ago. Big changes coming, hashed new beginnings, had blessed. 2 weeks ago, a realtor tagged her. Congratulations to my client Diana on her gorgeous new home. 1 week ago, Diana posted from our kitchen. Morning coffee hits different in your own space. She's already moved in. Ken's voice was deadly quiet. Yesterday. Sarah pulled up more surveillance. Moved everything while you were in New York. Margaret, they threw away your things. I have footage of them loading your belongings into a dumpster. My grandmother's china. My MIT diploma. Photo albums from college. Gone. The good news, Sarah said, is they were sloppy. Your father's banking friend? He's already talking to save himself. The notary who witnessed the signatures? She never actually saw you sign anything. Your parents brought her pre-signed documents. So we can prove fraud? We can prove conspiracy to commit fraud. Sarah smiled grimly. The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit will be very interested. FBI? My voice cracked slightly. Interstate wire fraud. This is bigger than local police, Margaret. Ken held my hand as we sat in our hotel room. We couldn't go home, not with Diana living there. Sarah had laid out the plan precisely. Gather evidence, file charges, then confront them with law enforcement present. We could just have them arrested now, Ken said. Why wait for Sunday dinner? Because they need to admit it in front of everyone. I pulled up the family group chat. Look at this. Mom had messaged everyone. Diana has wonderful news to share at dinner. So proud of our baby girl finally getting her life together. Aunt Carol responded with hearts. Uncle Tom with thumbs up. Cousin Beth asked if Diana was engaged. They're going to announce it, I realized. They're going to celebrate stealing our house in front of the entire family, Sarah called with an update. The FBI wants in. Can you get them to admit to the forgery on recording? I'll be wearing a wire, I said. Ken, too. No violence, Sarah warned. No threats. Just let them talk. Criminals always want to explain why they were justified. We spent Saturday preparing. Sarah coached us on what to say, what to avoid. The federal prosecutor assigned to the case walked us through scenarios. The FBI agent who'd be listening from outside showed us how to position ourselves for the best audio. Your parents are facing serious time, the prosecutor said. If Diana knew about the fraud, she's looking at charges too. She knew, I said, remembering the Instagram posts. Ken squeezed my shoulder. You sure you want to do this? They threw away my grandmother's china, I said. The one thing I had from her. They stood in our bedroom and decided their comfort mattered more than our entire lives. Sunday arrived gray and drizzling. Perfect weather for what was coming. The cameras caught everything, I reminded myself, touching the tiny microphone taped to my chest. They didn't know we were recording then. They won't know now. If you've ever been betrayed by family, you know this feeling. The moment when blood stops meaning automatic forgiveness. That sick twist in your stomach when you realize the people who should protect you are the ones robbing you blind. Before we get to the dinner confrontation, let me know in the comments. Would you have called the police on your own parents? Or would you have tried to handle it privately? And if this story resonates with you, please hit that subscribe button. Your support helps me share these important lessons about boundaries. Now, let's see what happened when I walked into that family dinner, wearing a wire, knowing the FBI was listening to every word. Mom answered the door with her fake company smile. Margaret, we didn't think you'd make it back in time. Wouldn't miss it, I said, stepping inside. The house smelled like pot roast, my favorite, which she only made for Diana's celebrations. The entire family was there. Aunt Carol and Uncle Tom on the couch, cousins Beth and Michael by the fireplace, Diana holding court in Dad's recliner, my old reading spot, wearing a designer dress I'd never seen before. Margaret! Diana jumped up, actually ran to hug me. I have the most amazing news! I let her embrace me, noting the new diamond earrings, the fresh manicure, the professionally styled hair, all paid for with my house money, no doubt. Can't wait to hear it, I said evenly. Ken entered behind me, and Dad actually flinched. Ken, thought you were in New York. Flew back early, Ken said. Didn't want to miss Diana's announcement. We sat at the dinner table, Ken and I strategically choosing seats with our backs to the wall, facing everyone. The FBI agent had said this position would give the best audio coverage. Diana kept giggling, touching her hair. Mom beamed at her. Dad avoided eye contact with everyone. So, Aunt Carol said, serving herself salad, what's the big news, Diana? Well, Diana actually bounced in her seat. I bought a house! The table erupted. Congratulations, questions, excitement. How did you manage it? Where is it? When can we visit? It's in Bellevue, Diana gushed. 4 bedrooms. Can you believe it? Bellevue's expensive, Uncle Tom said. How'd you swing that without a job? Diana's smile flickered. Mom jumped in. Family helped. That's what family does. Which family? I asked quietly. The table went silent. Everyone turned to look at me. Which family helped, Mom? I repeated. Because it wasn't me. Don't be jealous, Diana said, her voice syrupy sweet. Just because you have money doesn't mean you're the only one who can have nice things. I'm not jealous. I'm curious. I took a sip of water. How does someone with no job and $200,000 in credit card debt buy a $450,000 house? Aunt Carol gasped. 200,000? Diana's face went red. That's private. So is property ownership, Ken said mildly. Usually. What's that supposed to mean? Dad finally spoke, his jaw tight. Nothing, just interesting timing. I pulled out my phone, pretended to check something. Diana posts about a new house the same week Ken and I are both out of town. Coincidence, Mom said quickly. Diana's been saving. Saving? I laughed. She went to Cabo 3 times this year. Why are you being so nasty? Diana's eyes welled with tears on command. Can't you just be happy for me? Show me the deed, I said. Silence. What? Diana blinked. The deed. Property document. Should have your name on it, right? As the buyer? It's at the house. Your house. I emphasized the word. The one you bought. With your money. Uncle Tom shifted uncomfortably. What's going on here? Ask them. I gestured to my parents. Ask them how Diana afforded a house in Bellevue. We co-signed, Dad said suddenly. Nothing wrong with parents helping their children. Co-signing requires credit checks, Ken noted. Background verification, income proof. Are you interrogating us? Mom's voice pitched higher. At a family dinner? Just trying to understand the math, I said. Because from where I'm sitting, it doesn't add up. Diana stood abruptly. I don't have to listen to this. Sit down, I said quietly. We're not done. Something in my voice made everyone freeze. Diana slowly sank back into her chair. You've always been jealous, Mom said, her voice shaking. Ever since Diana was born. You can't stand that she needs help. Needs help? I set down my fork carefully. Is that what we're calling theft now? Margaret! Aunt Carol looked shocked. That's a serious accusation. Yes, it is. I looked directly at Dad. Want to tell them? Or should I? Dad's face had gone gray. You have enough money. You make 6 figures. Ken's a lawyer. Diana has nothing. Had nothing, Diana corrected, smiling. Now I have a beautiful home. My home, I said. The room exploded, everyone talking at once, voices overlapping, Uncle Tom demanding explanations, Beth asking what I meant, Michael pulling out his phone to look something up. Enough! Dad slammed his hand on the table. Margaret, you weren't even using that house. You're never there, always traveling, always working. Diana needed it more. So you took it? We facilitated a transfer. Ken laughed, sharp and bitter. Is that what you call forgery? Nobody forged anything, Mom's voice cracked. We had rights. We're her parents. Parents don't have rights to their adult children's property, Ken said. That's not how law works. Family is more important than law, Dad said. Then why, I asked, pulling out my phone again, did you have to pretend to be me to sell it? I hit play on the recording Sarah had given me. Dad's voice filled the room, imitating Ken. Yes, this is Ken Matthews. I authorized the sale. Aunt Carol's hand flew to her mouth. Uncle Tom stood up slowly. You didn't, he said to my father. Robert, tell me you didn't. Diana needed help, Mom was crying now. You don't understand the pressure she's under. The pressure? I stood too. The pressure of spending money she doesn't have? My phone buzzed. Sarah's text. They're in position. Time for the reveal. You know what's interesting about modern houses? I asked, my voice conversational. Everything's documented. Every transaction, every visitor, every change. Diana's smile faltered. What are you talking about? Just technology. For instance, our doorbell camera, the one that records every person who enters the property. Dad's coffee cup rattled against the saucer as he set it down. Or the cloud backup system, Ken added. That saves footage even when someone thinks they've disabled the cameras. You're lying, Mom whispered. Am I? I pulled up my phone, showed them a screenshot. This is you, Mom, in my bedroom, going through my jewelry box. The image was grainy but clear. Mom's face, captured perfectly as she held up my grandmother's pearl necklace, the one she'd always said should go to Diana. That's not what it looks like, Mom stammered. What does it look like? Uncle Tom asked, his voice hard. Because from here, it looks like breaking and entering. We had a key, Dad protested. For emergencies, I said. Not for selling my house. You can't prove anything, Diana said, but her voice wavered. Cameras don't prove fraud. No, but forged signatures do. I turned to Aunt Carol. You're a notary. Does this look like my signature to you? I slid a copy of the sale document across the table. Aunt Carol studied it, her face paling. This isn't your handwriting, Margaret. I know, I was in Singapore when I supposedly signed it. With witnesses, Ken added, 16 colleagues who can testify Margaret never left the office that day. Beth had been typing on her phone. Oh my God, the property records. They show Diana as the owner, but the sale date, Margaret, weren't you overseas? 15 time zones away. The doorbell rang. Everyone froze. That'll be my colleague, I said, standing. She has something to show you all. But it wasn't Sarah at the door. It was Diana's friend Jessica, holding a bottle of champagne. Am I late for the celebration? She bounced past me, oblivious to the tension. Diana texted me about the house. I'm so excited for you, babe. Diana grabbed Jessica's arm. Maybe come back later? Why? Isn't this the housewarming announcement? Jessica looked around the silent table. Did I interrupt something? You could say that, Ken said dryly. Mom suddenly burst into tears, the kind she'd perfected over years of manipulation. We just wanted our family to be happy. Is that so wrong? You wanted Diana to be happy, I corrected, at my expense. You have Ken, Mom wailed. Diana has no one. She's fragile. Fragile? I pulled up Diana's Instagram. This is from last week. Diana at a $500 per plate restaurant. Diana buying a $3,000 purse. Diana getting highlights at the salon where I can't even afford a haircut because I'm saving for my future. That's different. Dad stood, his face red. We did what any parents would do. We helped the child who needed it most. By stealing from the one who earned it? It's not stealing when it's family. Uncle Tom stepped forward. Robert, that's exactly what it is. You don't understand, Dad said desperately. Diana was going to hurt herself. She said if we didn't help. I never said that, Diana protested, then caught herself. I mean, I was upset, but which is it? I asked. Were you suicidal or just manipulative? The doorbell rang again. This time, Mom went to answer it, probably grateful for the escape. Her scream told us it wasn't Sarah Coleman. FBI. We have a warrant. 3 agents entered, badges visible, faces professional. Everyone at the table stood simultaneously except me. I remained seated, calm. What did you do? Diana whispered. I stood slowly, facing my family. What I did? Let me tell you what I did. The FBI agents positioned themselves by the exits as I continued. 10 days ago, I landed in Seattle to discover you'd stolen my house. Not borrowed money, not asked for help. Stolen my house. I looked at each family member. The house Ken and I saved 5 years to buy. Margaret, please. Mom reached for me. I stepped back. You forged my signature. You impersonated Ken on a phone call. You used Dad's banking connections to push through a fraudulent sale. How do you know all this? Dad's voice was hollow. Security cameras you didn't know about? Bank recordings you didn't think existed? A paper trail you were too arrogant to hide? Diana was backing toward the door. An agent stepped into her path. Sit down, Miss Moore, he said quietly. I want you all to understand something, I continued, my voice steady. This wasn't about money. I would have helped Diana if she'd asked. But you didn't ask. You took. You decided your wants mattered more than my rights. We're your parents, Mom sobbed. Which makes it worse. I turned to the extended family. They threw away my belongings, my grandmother's china, the set she left me, not Diana, my diplomas, photo albums, gone, because Diana wanted a fresh start in my house. Aunt Carol was crying silently. Uncle Tom looked disgusted. But here's what really gets me, I said. You were going to celebrate it. Tonight. You were going to toast to Diana's success knowing you'd destroyed everything Ken and I built. We didn't destroy anything, Dad protested. You still have your jobs, your savings. Our savings? Ken laughed bitterly. The down payment we're still paying off? The renovation loan we took out last month? Jessica had pressed herself against the wall, champagne bottle forgotten. Agent Martinez, I said. They're all yours. Robert Moore, Linda Moore, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, identity theft, and forgery. Agent Martinez moved forward with handcuffs. No, Aunt Carol stood. There has to be a mistake. They're good people. Good people don't steal houses, Uncle Tom said flatly. I'm sorry, Carol, but this is inexcusable. The room split like a fault line. Aunt Carol and Cousin Beth moved toward my parents. Uncle Tom, Michael, and surprisingly Jessica, stepped closer to Ken and me. This is your fault, Beth pointed at me. You could have handled this privately. I tried calling them. They didn't answer. I watched as Agent Martinez cuffed my father's hands. They thought I'd just accept it, like I always accepted being second place. Diana Moore, another agent approached her. We need to ask you some questions. I didn't know, Diana shrieked. They told me Margaret agreed. They said she wanted to help. Really? I pulled up her text to Jessica. This one from 3 weeks ago says, "Parents finally taking my side. M won't know what hit her." Jessica gasped. "Diana, you knew?" "Shut up!" Diana lunged at me, but the agent caught her arm. "That's assault," he said calmly. "Add it to the charges." Mom was hyperventilating. "My babies, don't turn my babies against each other." "You did that," Uncle Tom said, 20 years ago when you decided Diana mattered more." "That's not true." "It is," Michael spoke up. "Remember Christmas 2018? Margaret got the promotion to senior engineer. You spent the entire dinner talking about Diana's failed pottery business." "Or her college graduation," Beth added quietly, seeming to switch sides. "You left early for Diana's therapy appointment." Diana always had therapy during Margaret's events, Aunt Carol realized. Always. The agents were leading my parents toward the door. Dad turned back. "Margaret, please, we're family." "No," I said simply. "We're not." "Wait." Dad stopped at the doorway, the agent pausing. "I need to say something." Agent Martinez nodded. "Your words are being recorded." Dad looked at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw him actually see me. "We did forge your signature. I called the bank, pretended to be Ken. Your mother practiced copying your handwriting for weeks." "Robert!" Mom gasped. "They need to know, Linda." His shoulders sagged. "We used my old manager at Sound Pacific, promised him Diana would pay him back with interest from the sale." "How much?" Ken asked. 50,000, under the table, to push it through without proper verification." The agent was typing notes rapidly. "We knew you'd be angry," Dad continued. "But we thought you'd forgive us. You always forgave us." "Because I had no choice," I said. "I was a child who needed parents. Diana needed us more." "Diana is 32 years old." My composure finally cracked. "She's not fragile, she's spoiled. You made her this way." "Don't blame me," Diana screamed. "I didn't ask to be born second." "You weren't second," I said. "You were first from the day you arrived. First for attention, first for money, first for love." Mom was sobbing. "We loved you both equally." "No, you loved Diana. You needed me." I turned to the agents. "I have everything documented. Financial records showing pattern behavior, 37,000 to Diana last year alone. Text messages planning the fraud. Security footage of them in my house without permission." "The footage is fake," Diana tried desperately. Ken held up his phone. "Time-stamped and verified by 3 independent sources. Sarah Coleman has copies for the prosecution." "They're already here," Agent Martinez noted, looking outside. Through the window, I saw Sarah walking up with 2 federal prosecutors. "You called the FBI on your own parents," Mom whispered. "What kind of daughter does that?" "The kind who finally learned to protect herself." This is the moment everything changes. When family stops being an excuse for crime. When blood is thicker than water meets fraud is still illegal. If you're still watching, you understand that some boundaries must be enforced, no matter how much it hurts. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and justice? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one. And remember to like this video if you believe in standing up for yourself, even against those who raised you. Now let's see who was really at the door, and what happened when Diana realized the house she'd stolen was already lost. Sarah Coleman entered with the prosecutors, her silver hair pulled back, designer suit immaculate even at 8 p.m. on a Sunday. She surveyed the chaos, my parents in handcuffs, Diana being questioned, family members scattered like chess pieces. "Mr. and Mrs. Moore," she said formally, "I'm Sarah Coleman, representing Margaret Moore and Ken Matthews in this matter. These gentlemen are federal prosecutors James Wright and David Kim." "We want a lawyer," Dad said immediately. "That's your right," Sarah smiled coldly. "You'll need one. The charges include conspiracy to commit wire fraud, forgery, identity theft, bank fraud, and interstate commerce fraud." "Interstate?" Mom's voice cracked. "Margaret was in Singapore. Ken was in New York. You sold property across state lines using fraudulent documents. That makes it federal. Prosecutor Wright stepped forward. Diana Moore, you're also under arrest. What? No! Diana tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Your Instagram posts show prior knowledge. Your texts confirm conspiracy. You moved into a house you knew was stolen. It wasn't stolen. My parents gave it to me. Your parents didn't own it to give, Sarah said. She pulled out her tablet showing bank records. You also spent $200,000 from the house sale in 10 days. Cars, jewelry, clothes. That money was proceeds from a crime. I didn't know. Ken laughed bitterly. You posted a selfie from our bedroom with the caption, "Karma finally paying off." You knew. The agents were reading Diana her rights now. Jessica had dropped the champagne, the bottle rolling across the floor, spilling over Mom's white carpet. The house, Diana said suddenly. If I'm arrested, what happens to the house? Sarah's smile was sharp. It was never legally sold. Title reverts to the rightful owners immediately. You have 48 hours to vacate. But my things… You mean Margaret's things that you threw away? Sarah pulled up photos. We have documentation of everything you destroyed. That's additional charges. Diana's face went white as the reality hit. But I spent everything. The money from the sale, my credit cards are maxed again. I bought a car. With stolen funds, Prosecutor Kim noted. All of that will be seized as evidence. I'll be homeless. You were always homeless, I said quietly. You were just squatting in my house. How can you be so cruel? She was crying now, real tears for once. I'm your sister! You stopped being my sister the day you celebrated stealing my life. Sarah pulled up more documents on her tablet. There's more. The bank manager who helped push through the fraudulent sale? He's already confessed. Turns out he's been helping your father with similar schemes for 3 years. Uncle Tom stepped forward. Similar schemes? 4 other properties. Elderly clients. Your brother's been running a fraud ring, Tom. The room went completely silent. Even Mom stopped crying. That's impossible, Aunt Carol whispered. We have his confession, Agent Martinez said. He's looking at 20 to 30 years. Dad's legs gave out. Only the agent's grip kept him standing. But the family money, Mom said faintly. Diana's 32, I interrupted. She can get a job like everyone else. With a criminal record? Diana laughed hysterically. Who's going to hire me? That's not my problem anymore. Sarah's phone buzzed. The seizure team is at the house now. Diana, they'll escort you to pack 1 suitcase of personal items. Anything you bought with the stolen funds stays. 1 suitcase? That's nothing. It's more than you left Margaret, Ken said. She would have come home to nothing if we hadn't caught you. Jessica finally spoke. Diana, you told me Margaret gave you the house. You said she felt guilty about having so much. She did have too much. I had exactly what I earned, I said. No more, no less. The agents began moving my parents toward the door. The entire family followed, spilling onto the front lawn where 3 FBI vehicles waited, lights flashing. Neighbors had come out, phones raised, recording everything. Please, Mom begged me. Not like this, not in front of everyone. You were going to celebrate in front of everyone, I reminded her. This is just the other side of that coin. Mrs. Patterson from next door called out, Linda, what's happening? Your neighbors are being arrested for fraud, Agent Martinez announced clearly. If anyone has information about other financial crimes involving Robert Moore, please contact the FBI. 2 more neighbors immediately stepped forward. He sold my mother a bad investment last year, Mr. Chen said. Told us it was guaranteed. He borrowed money from us for Diana's medical emergency, Mrs. Williams added. 20,000, never paid back. Each confession was another nail. Dad aged 10 years in 10 seconds. The agents put my parents in separate vehicles. Dad in the first, Mom in the second. Diana was walked to the third, still screaming about unfairness. Margaret, Mom called from the car window. I'm your mother. Doesn't that mean anything? It meant everything, I said. walking closer so she could hear me clearly. That's why this hurts so much. You were supposed to protect me, not rob me. We gave you life. And then you tried to steal it back. The car door closed. As they drove away, I felt Ken's arm around me, solid and warm. You okay? He whispered. I will be. Uncle Tom approached. Margaret, I'm sorry. I should have seen this. Should have stopped it years ago. We all should have, Aunt Carol admitted. We enabled them by staying silent. Behind us, Jessica was deleting photos from her phone. All the celebrations with Diana, all the shopping trips funded by my house. The neighborhood watched as the FBI vehicles disappeared into the night. Sarah's conference room became our command center over the next weeks. Federal prosecutors, FBI agents, and forensic accountants uncovered the full scope of my father's crimes. 23 victims total, Prosecutor Wright explained. Your parents specifically targeted elderly clients and their own extended family. Total fraud, $3.2 million over 6 years. Million? Ken stared at the numbers. Your father was smart enough to keep each individual theft under certain thresholds. Until your house. That was their biggest score. And their downfall. Sarah pulled up the charges. Wire fraud, 20 counts. Identity theft, 15 counts. Bank fraud, 12 counts. Conspiracy, 30 counts. Money laundering, 8 counts. What does that mean in years? I asked. Your father's looking at 25 to life. Your mother, 15 to 20. Diana, 5 to 10. 5 seems light for Diana. She's cooperating. Turns out she kept recordings of your parents planning everything. She's trading them for a lighter sentence. I laughed. I couldn't help it. She recorded them? Insurance, she called it, in case they ever cut her off. Even in fraud, Diana was protecting herself first. The bank manager, Richard Lawson, had already pled guilty. Sound Pacific faced federal investigation, their stock plummeting. 3 other employees were arrested. The house? Ken asked. Title's already restored to you. Diana was evicted yesterday. Federal marshals supervised. And the money Diana spent? Asset recovery is ongoing. The cars were seized, jewelry confiscated, the vacation packages canceled. You'll recover maybe 60%. That's it? She burned through cash like wildfire. Restaurants, spas, clothes, all non-recoverable. I thought about my grandmother's china, thrown in a dumpster. Some things couldn't be recovered with any amount of money. There is good news, Sarah added. The other victims are grateful you exposed this. You've helped 23 families get justice. But I'd lost my own family in the process. Worth it. Ken and I stood in our empty house, Diana's eviction complete. She'd destroyed more than we'd imagined. Holes in walls where she'd hung her tacky art, scratches on our hardwood from her parties. The garden Ken had carefully tended, dead. We can fix this, he said, but his voice was hollow. The master bedroom was the worst. She'd painted over our soft gray walls with hot pink. Our walk-in closet had been demolished to make room for her Instagram-worthy vanity station. She lived here 2 weeks, I said. How did she do so much damage? Spite, Ken answered simply. Sarah arrived with contractors for estimates. Insurance will cover most of it. Diana's restitution will handle the rest. Diana doesn't have money for restitution. She will. The court ordered wage garnishment for the next 20 years. 60% of any income she makes goes to you. If she ever works, she'll have to. No one's going to support her now. We found a few things Diana had missed. My MIT diploma, fallen behind a dresser. One photo album stuck in the attic. Ken's grandfather's watch, overlooked in his office drawer. Small mercies, Ken said, holding the watch. The contractors estimated 3 months for full restoration. We'd live in the hotel until then, insurance covering the cost. I want security upgrades, I told Sarah. Cameras, alarms, reinforced locks, everything. Already arranged, no one gets in without biometric verification. As we left, Mrs. Chen from next door approached. Margaret? I saved something for you. She handed me a box. Inside, wrapped in tissue, were 3 pieces of my grandmother's china. Teacups, delicate and perfect. I saw them throwing things away. I grabbed what I could. I hugged her, crying for the first time since this started. Family isn't always blood, she said softly. Sometimes it's neighbors who pay attention. The family fracture was complete by Christmas. What had been one large extended family became 3 distinct camps: those who supported me, those who sided with my parents, and those who simply disappeared. Uncle Tom called weekly, checking in. Your dad's my brother, but what he did was unforgivable. I'm testifying for the prosecution. Aunt Carol chose differently. Her voicemail was vicious. You destroyed this family. Your parents made one mistake and you ruined their lives. Don't contact me again. One mistake. As if 23 victims were one mistake. Cousin Beth surprised me, showing up with coffee and an apology. I was wrong to defend them. I found out Dad lost $50,000 to your father's investments 2 years ago. We never knew it was fraud until now. The family group chat died. The annual reunion, canceled. 30 years of tradition, ended by greed. Diana tried calling from jail, collect. I declined every time. She wrote letters, long, rambling things about forgiveness and sisterhood. Ken threw them in the fire unread. She's not sorry, he said. She's just sorry she got caught. Mom's sister in Portland sent a card. I always knew Linda favored Diana. I'm glad you finally stood up for yourself. But standing up came with costs. No more family dinners, even the toxic ones. No parents to call, even parents who didn't really care. No sister, even one who only saw me as a bank account. Do you regret it? Ken asked one night. No, I meant it. I regret that it was necessary. I regret they chose crime over conversation. But I don't regret protecting us. The empty space where family should be felt vast some days, but it was clean, honest emptiness. Better than the cluttered pain of being used. We'll make our own family, Ken promised. One that doesn't steal from each other. Revolutionary concept, I laughed, but it wasn't really funny. 6 months after the arrest, Ken and I married in our restored backyard. 20 guests, his family, our closest friends, Mrs. Chen, and Uncle Tom. No one from my side except the family I'd chosen. Ken's mother pulled me aside. I'm proud of you. What you did took incredible courage. We started the Margaret Moore Foundation for fraud victims with the restitution money. Within a year, we'd helped 50 families recover assets from family fraud, a crime more common than anyone admits. Most victims never report it, our lawyer explained. Family shame keeps them silent. I understood that shame. But I also understood that silence only protected the criminals. My promotion to director came through, with a substantial raise. Ken made partner at his firm, partially due to his expertise in family fraud cases. We were thriving professionally while my parents awaited sentencing. The sentencing hearing was brutal. 23 victims testified: the elderly woman who lost her retirement, the cousin who lost his children's college funds. Each story another weight on the scales of justice. Dad got 30 years, Mom got 18, Diana got 7 with possibility of parole in 4. I didn't attend. Sarah went for me, recording their reactions. Dad cried, Mom fainted. Diana screamed that it was my fault. No, the judge corrected her. It's yours. We bought a second house, a cabin in the mountains, paid in cash, no loans to forge. Our retreat from the world when it got too heavy. Think they understand yet? Ken asked one evening as we watched the sunset from our deck. Understand what? That they had everything: a successful daughter, a stable son-in-law, potential grandchildren. And they threw it away for money that wasn't theirs. No, I said. They'll never understand. In their minds, they're still the victims. but I wasn't waiting for their understanding anymore. I was building something better. The speaking invitation surprised me. Family fraud, the silent crime, at the National Victims' Rights Conference. 300 people in the audience, all with their own stories of betrayal. We don't talk about it, I began, because we're ashamed. Ashamed we trusted. Ashamed we didn't see it coming. Ashamed our own family could do this. Heads nodded throughout the room. But shame protects the perpetrators, not the victims. My parents stole my house. They're in federal prison. Those are facts, not family secrets. I shared everything, the favoritism, the theft, the arrest at Sunday dinner. But mostly I shared the aftermath. Boundaries aren't cruel. They're necessary. Love isn't unconditional when it comes with a price tag. And family that steals from you isn't family. They're criminals who happen to share your DNA. The questions afterward were heartbreaking. How do I report my son? What if my mother goes to jail? How do I live with the guilt? You don't live with guilt, I answered. You live with boundaries. Guilt belongs to the people who committed crimes, not the ones who reported them. A woman approached afterward crying. My brother stole my inheritance. Everyone says I should forgive him. Did he apologize? Make amends? Return the money? No, he says I'm being dramatic. Then forgiveness isn't the issue. Justice is. I gave her Sarah's card. Another family would fracture, but another victim would find peace. Ken waited in the lobby, flowers in hand. Proud of you. For what? For turning pain into purpose. The foundation had a waiting list now. 50 families became 500, each one learning the hardest lesson. Sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones we trusted first, but that didn't mean we had to keep trusting them. Blood makes you related, I told every new client. Behavior makes you family. 1 year to the day after the arrest, Ken and I hosted our first real dinner party in the restored house. Our chosen family filled every seat, friends who'd stood by us, his parents who'd embraced me, Uncle Tom who'd testified against his own brother. A toast, Ken's father raised his glass. To Margaret, who taught us that family isn't about blood, it's about trust. The dining room erupted in agreement. These people had earned their seats at our table through loyalty, not genealogy. Mrs. Chen had brought her famous dumplings. Ken's mother made her apple pie. Uncle Tom contributed wine from his collection, bottles he'd hidden from my father's investment opportunities. Any regrets? Tom asked quietly as we cleared plates. Only one. I wish I'd done it sooner. He nodded. I got a letter from Robert. And? Threw it away. He made his choice. We all live with consequences. My phone buzzed. Diana's monthly attempt from prison, blocked automatically. She's still trying? Ken asked. Every month, like clockwork. What do you think she wants? Money, forgiveness, a place to stay when she gets out. I shrugged. Doesn't matter. She's not getting any of it. Our new life had strict boundaries. No contact with anyone who'd sided with my parents. No discussions of reconciliation. No guilt about protecting our peace. We're thinking about kids, Ken announced to the table. And we want them surrounded by people who understand that love means respect, not entitlement. They'll never know my parents, I added. That's not cruel. That's protection. Ken's mother squeezed my hand. They'll have grandparents who earned the title. Looking around our table, full of chosen family, empty of toxic blood, I realized something. I hadn't lost a family. I'd escaped one that was never really mine, and built something infinitely better. Today, my parents are serving year 3 of their sentences. Dad aged 20 years in 3. Mom reportedly cries daily. Diana works in the prison kitchen, earning 70 cents an hour. 60% goes to me. I donate every penny to fraud victims who can't afford lawyers. The house Ken and I fought to save has become a symbol of something bigger. Every morning, I wake up in the bedroom Diana tried to destroy, now painted a soft blue. I make coffee in the kitchen where she threw parties with my money. I work in the office where my parents plotted their theft. And I thrive, not out of spite, but out of freedom. Freedom from manipulation, freedom from guilt, freedom from the exhausting performance of pretending crime is love. If you're reading this because someone in your family has crossed the line from difficult to criminal, know this: you don't owe anyone your destruction. Not your parents, not your siblings, not anyone who claims blood means accepting abuse. The family that truly loves you won't steal from you, financially, emotionally, or spiritually. They won't ask you to sacrifice your future for their comfort. They won't punish you for having boundaries. Sometimes the greatest act of self-love is walking away from the people who were supposed to love you first. My parents sold my house. I got it back and lost them forever. Best trade I ever made. Because here's the truth they never understood. Family isn't about what you're born into. It's about what you build. And what Ken and I built, with chosen family, real friends, and ironclad boundaries, is worth more than any inheritance they could have given. Your story matters. Your boundaries matter. You matter. More than blood, more than guilt, more than their comfort. Choose yourself. It's not selfish, it's necessary. If this story helped you realize you're not alone in dealing with toxic family dynamics, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Have you ever had to set hard boundaries with family? I'd love to hear your story in the comments. I read every single one, and our community supports each other. Remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary for survival. Subscribe for more stories about setting boundaries and finding your chosen family. Click the notification bell so you don't miss our next story. And if you're facing something similar, know this: you deserve respect, especially from those who claim to love you. Thank you for watching, and remember, family is behavior, not blood.